everyone, it's Deanna Maurice here. Thank you so much for clicking into this video. I really do appreciate it. If you like my vibe, please go ahead and subscribe, as well as leave me a comment, like, and share this video. I would really appreciate it. And I really want to say thank you to everyone who has been supporting my videos this far. It really makes my day when I see I get a new subscriber or a comment or something. So I just want to go ahead and say thank you. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about my twins that I had at 24 weeks. Now this is a very emotional topic for me. It's a very touching topic. Even though it happened about 5 years ago, right now it is still very fresh and vivid in my mind, all the raw emotions that I felt. So I just want to give you guys a pre-warning that I am a crier, so you guys may see some tears in this video. So let's get right into this video, and I will share with you all the story of my miracle children, Savannah and Clayton. So my husband and I got married in 2012, and in about April or May of 2013 I found out that I was pregnant by taking a test. When I took the test, the line was very faint, but within myself I knew that I was pregnant. I knew that, because it's funny, like I had never been pregnant before, but something was just over my body telling me like, no, this is true. This test, even though the line is faint, it is still a positive. You are still pregnant. So I went ahead and I contacted a doctor so that I could go ahead and get it confirmed. They told me that I had to wait until about 12 weeks, I believe it was, somewhere around there. I hope I'm getting the timeline correct. That I went in and then they confirmed that I was actually pregnant. At this time, they did they listened for a heartbeat, and once they found one heartbeat, they were fine. They moved on and, you know, said baby's heartbeat sounds awesome. So in about 3 weeks after that, I went back and I was able to get a ultrasound with the pictures where I could see the baby. And so the person who was performing the ultrasound, she, after going through a little bit, she stops, and I'm like, okay. My husband and I looking at each other like, okay. She's like, are you a calm person? I'm like, it depends on the situation. Like, is everything okay? And she's like, well, I see 2 babies in here. And so my husband and I, we kept saying to ourselves, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I can't believe it, we can't believe it, we can't believe it. We just staring at the screen for hours. So we told our family. Funny story, I told my mom that we were having twins. I brought the pictures home to show to her. I put them on, she was sitting at the kitchen table. I went to pick my husband up from work, and 45 minutes later when I came back, my mom was staring at these pictures in disbelief that her baby, me, was having twins, right? So anyway, so that was that. We went back to the hospital for our ultrasound to find out the gender. Clayton wasn't cooperating 100%. We were able to find out that we were having a boy and a girl, which was very exciting news to us. But then they couldn't get all of the images of his head because this boy would not move. Like, he was way down, low down, which was to me like God's divine intervention, because then they scheduled a appointment for about a week or 2 later, which is not typical. It's usually like 3 to 4 weeks, they say, at that point, because I was still so early. During that period, everything was fine. I was feeling good. However, my health insurance wasn't completely active. So I had received a letter about, you know, my insurance not being active at this time, and just a lot of different things going on. I don't remember the exact situation that was going on with my health insurance, but just know that it wasn't effective and it was not working at this time. It's scary when you are pregnant because it is very expensive to have a child if you do not have a health insurance. So my mom said to me, why don't you go ahead and call the health insurance and let them know that you are pregnant and that you need emergency health insurance to cover you throughout this pregnancy, because you can't be pregnant and not have any insurance. That date, I just want to give you guys the dates because I want to show you guys how wonderful and amazing God is and how he just worked. So on Monday, July 22nd, 2013, my mother said to me, Deanna, why don't you go ahead and call the insurance and let them know that you are pregnant, because it doesn't make any sense for you to be pregnant without insurance. You know, anything can happen. So why don't you go ahead and call? So I did exactly that. And I told them the situation, that I was pregnant, yada, yada, yada. I was how many weeks I was. So they said that it took about 48 hours. The Wednesday morning before my appointment, I received a phone call from the from the insurance company telling me that everything had went through, everything was great, and they would cover everything. Now that was good news to me because I was actually on my way to an appointment, so I was really happy that my insurance was being taken, my visits and everything was being taken care of under insurance. So we got to this appointment. It was my husband and I and my niece Diana. I saw my OBGYN, the woman who was intended to deliver my children, and we were having a conversation, and being that it was my first time being pregnant, after, you know, all the things that she said to me, she asked me if I had any questions. My only question to her was, how long do you have to be pregnant for your babies to make it? Like, where did that come from? Why did I think of that? I don't know, but that was my question. And I just remember her telling me 24 weeks. And I was like, oh, okay. That was my only question at the time. So then they sent me over to the ultrasound tech, and they went ahead and they did an ultrasound like they did normally. However, this time my OBGYN did not come in, but instead it was a high-risk doctor. And so he introduced himself, and we were like, okay, why are we seeing a high-risk doctor? Like, we thought everything is good. We thought everything was going well. Why are we seeing a high-risk doctor? So then he proceeds to explain to me that there is a big spot in my cervix that should not be there. So on the pictures, when you looked on the pictures, you could see the babies and everything, but then there was this big black spot. And so what he started to explain to me is that it looked as though I had an incompetent cervix. In layman's terms, my body was not equipped to carry the pressure of this pregnancy any longer. And for some women, it is with one pregnancy, and for others, it's with all pregnancies. And, you know, women have different reasons for having difficult pregnancies, but that is just one of them. Then he started to explain to me all of these different things. At this point, my head is like in a whirlwind. I can barely focus because he's telling me that I'm pretty much in active labor at this point. And at this point, I am 20 weeks pregnant. I have 20 weeks to go, okay? So he says to me, we have a few different options, but first you have to go ahead and get assessed a little bit more. And what I'm going to do is send you to one of the main hospitals in Boston, in downtown Boston, and they're going to assess you further there. So when I got there, no, back up. So he started telling me, he started explaining to us the different options that we could possibly have. One being a cerclage, but it was very risky, and not only that, it hadn't been proven effective with twins. And so I had a higher risk of losing them if I got the cerclage than if I just stayed where I was. My doctor's office was about 15 to 20 miles outside of Boston. So it was kind of like a satellite location that was affiliated with this hospital in Boston. He told me that we need to go there and we can get some additional testing to see exactly what was going on and try to figure out, you know, what was our next step. So we took his advice, and when we got to the hospital, we got to the initial area. I believe it was called like the triage, where they just kind of like enter you in, and you know, the rooms are divided by curtains and stuff. So we got in there. When we got into that room, they did an examination of my cervix with their fingers, and basically, I guess if you push it up and if you spread it or something, that when they spread it, they can determine how far along you are and how dilated you are. So after that test, they told us that I was 3 centimeters dilated and I was in full-blown active labor, and my body was rejecting my children at this point because my cervix was not strong enough to carry them. So then that woman walks out and another doctor walks in. So when she came in to explain to me my options at this point. These were the feasible options that they thought would be the best for me at 20 weeks pregnant. She said you can have a D and C, which is pretty much an abortion, because my kids were perfectly healthy. So they would take them out and then they would die at 20 weeks. And then they would clear out my system. And my second option was to go home and wait. They could come in the car ride home. They could come in while I was sleeping. They could fall out in the toilet. There were just so many different things that could have happened, that could have, if I had gone home. And then she says, you have 30 minutes to make a decision. When they told us that we had 30 minutes to make a decision, so many different things went through my mind. Like, I couldn't understand. I couldn't grasp it. So when the doctor gave us our options, we were in disbelief. We were devastated, because even though our pregnancy wasn't planned, it was something that we were looking forward to. We were looking forward to being parents, and in my head I was thinking, I'm 24, I'm relatively healthy, I don't have any high blood pressure, I don't have diabetes, you know, I don't take medication on a regular basis. Why is this happening to me? Then I started thinking, I did this the right way. I waited until I got married, you know, and now I'm pregnant, and now this. What did I do? Those were the first things that came into my mind. I thought I did something wrong to lead me to this point. I thought maybe I was being too active as far as, like, you know, driving and walking and going to different places. I had been to Six Flags. I was doing a lot of sewing at home and a lot of DIYs, trying to get their space ready. Like, I just thought, like, maybe I did something that was wrong. Then we decided to go ahead and call my mother, and we discussed it with my mom, and we were both saying, you know, like, this is not right. And all I could think in my head is that God gives life, so I can't take it away. Like, when God is ready, they will come, and whatever the outcome is, I will have to accept it. Like, I'm not going to end my pregnancy early because I don't have enough faith, or I can't. I'm not gonna just listen. I'm not gonna just take the first option that you give me that is not suitable for my beliefs. Like, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna have a GNC and abort my children, and I'm not gonna go home and wait for them to come on me if I'm in active labor, and for them to die in my arms at home. I'm not going to do it. So as we continued talking to my mom, you know, she was distraught as well, trying to console us at the same time. When we got off the phone with my mom, she called everybody. She called everyone she knew that she thought could help. So funny thing is, my sister worked at this same hospital. She had links there, connections there, for people, you know, obviously that she worked with. She wasn't a doctor or nurse or anything, but she definitely had people that worked in there. She called her friend that worked on the maternal floor, and so out of nowhere, I see this girl coming towards me because they had sent us back out into, like, the waiting area. She introduced herself. She was like, I'm a very good, you know, I know your sister very well. She's a very good person. Anything that you need, I'm gonna be right here. I told them they better not try to send you home at this time. Allow you to have your options. And if they don't do it, I'm gonna cause ruckus, and I'm gonna get everybody else up in here to cause ruckus with me, because it's not right. My mom called my children's godmother. Now, she is the president. She's currently the president of a hospital, and she's also a nurse practitioner. So she obviously has a background in medicine and medical law and different things that they can and they cannot, that the hospitals can and cannot do. So and she's a busy woman. She dropped everything she was doing and she ran down there. And when she came there, she came through the doors. At this point, they had kind of put us into, like, a separate room, and she was so upset. She was like, I can't believe they tried to tell you had 30 minutes to make a decision, yada yada yada. Then she starts bossing around the nurses in there like this was her hospital. But I mean, I'm grateful for all those things. She was like, no, you guys need to get an IV in her right now, because she's not going home. I'm gonna call this doctor, that doctor, this doctor. There has to be something that you guys can do. You guys are not gonna send her home. She's not gonna go home and have these babies on her own. This is absolutely ridiculous. She just went on and on and on and on and on. Then the nurses, when she stepped out of the room for a second, they were like, what is she? Who is she? Because they knew, based on her presence, the way that she was speaking to them, they knew she had knowledge in the medical field. So then she comes back into the room and she's asked them like, where's the IV? So the nurse went and she went to go get the IV to put in my arm, because basically once you have the IV, they can give you the band and technically you are admitted, right? And then they can't discharge you until you are comfortable enough to go home. So my kid's godmother knew this. So she, you know, so then the nurses went and they got the IV. I do have very difficult veins to find. And then she started, and then my kid's godmother, she started getting real southern on them, because she spoke down. She was like, y'all better figure it out. I don't have a good southern accent, but she, y'all better figure it out. Nope. Y'all better get that IV in there. If I gotta put it in myself, it's going in. So she like oversee them and made sure that the IV got in and that I was there. I was set. I was admitted to the hospital, and I did not have to leave until I was comfortable enough to do so. So I was so happy that she could make it there. Then my sister was at the nail salon. She doesn't work there anymore, so I can say all these things. She used her card. She was off the clock. She came into the hospital. She bust into my room, into the room that I was in, and she's like, no, which doctor is this? Which doctor told you that? She started writing down things. She's like, no, it's not gonna go like this. This is not what happens at this hospital. They're not just gonna try to dismiss you and make you go home and have the babies. It's not gonna happen. So she started going on and on and on. Mind you, she was at the nail salon when she heard this information. By the time she reached me, her nails was all jacked up, because she just like left what she was doing. She didn't care. She just wanted to be by my side to make sure that we were okay and that she could assist us in any way possible. So I love you guys for that, and I was really appreciative of it as well. So at this point, they got me a room and they put me on very strict bed rest. That means that I could only get up to go to the bathroom, and that was about it. I could not take a shower or anything. I had to be, my husband had to give me bed baths, basically. So I was there. Now this was a Wednesday that this all happened. And you know, the news spread to my church family about what was going on with me, and the women decided to have a very intimate prayer with all of the women there at the church, specifically for me, and you know, the situation that was going on, and that my body would be able to handle the pregnancy, as well as my husband and I be able to handle whatever we had to go through during this time of difficulty. Which I really appreciated that, because somehow when my sister told me they did that, it kind of set kind of like a calmness over my spirit to know that there were so many other people out there thinking about my situation and that what was going on, and I had so much support. During my time in the hospital, I took that time to kind of reflect over my life, to pray, to study, to try to, you know, think of what is God trying to get me to learn out of this whole situation. And it is so true when you say you have to be careful about what you pray for. You have to be intentional about what you pray for and be ready for it when God sends it your way. And you guys may be saying, Deanna, what are you talking about? So I'm going to give you guys a little backstory. So my mom and my father separated when I was very young, about 6 years old. And he stayed in the islands and we moved here. And because of that, I would only see him once every couple of years at that point, and he did not take the effort to connect with me on a level that I thought that he should as my father. Now looking back on it, my father was in a very horrible car accident, which I think left him with a bit of brain damage. You know, from that car accident, he basically had to learn how to talk, walk, do everything over again. So now that I'm older, I can understand where you know, some of the connection may have been lost. But anywho, I would pray to God and say, you know, God, I was born and raised in church. This is all I know. This is all I know. But I need for you to show me. My physical father isn't stepping up to the plate. I need for you to show me as my spiritual father that you are there for me. I need you to show up and to show out. I need you to give me something that I cannot deny that it is you. I need you to show me you. I need you, Lord. Because you guys may not realize, for those who are raised in a family with a father and mother in the same space, there's different things that a child goes through that one parent alone cannot handle. And so because of that, that was my constant prayer to God. And years later, here was my answer. God showed up and he showed out, and there was no denying that it was him. There was no denying that this was him trying to tell me, I'm here for you, my child. Meanwhile, I was in the hospital because, like I said, I was reflecting on a lot of different things, and you know, sometimes things can kind of like seep into your psyche. I had a dream about my father. I was in a room that was really dark, and I was on a chair, and there was a light shining down. I know, very like typical, right? All I heard was, in order for them to live, you need to forgive your father. And I took that as, how can I have my father in my heart, captive in my heart, not showing love to him because I'm so upset? My heart was so hardened towards him because of the lack of his presence in my life. How can I now be praying to God to forgive me for my sins so that I could have my kids and they could be healthy? How could I be praying to God hoping that he's hearing me when I'm hating my father in my heart? Right? So from that, I started to think a little bit more and more and more on this topic, and I came to the point where I just had to forgive him. Even if, you know, certain things, of course certain things still hurt, but I just had to come to the place where I said, Deanna, you have to forgive him. Like, you can't allow this to keep you captive anymore. Like, forgive your father. You know, sometimes different life experiences mold people in different ways where they think certain things are okay. They think treating people a certain way is okay, even though it's not. But it's somewhat not their fault. It's the environment that they were raised in. So at the end of it all, I had to forgive my father. And once I forgave him, I felt another sense of calmness coming over my body. Then moving on from there, I still had that feeling of guilt that I had done something wrong, until all of these women so close to me, women that I see on a regular basis, started to share their stories with me about their miscarriages and different things that had happened in their life with their pregnancies, and how difficult it was for some of them. And it was just an eye-opener to me and helped me realize, like, we do not talk about this topic as women as much as we should, to allow those people who are trying to get pregnant or are pregnant and going through similar situations as mine, that there is hope. And even if you do miscarry, there is hope, okay? So my kid's godmother, she was the one that actually helped me get to the point of accepting the fact that it was not my fault. She shared her miscarriage story with me, and basically the things that she had been doing, and you know, how she didn't even realize initially what was going on with her because she did not know she was pregnant, and how that just devastated her. And then when she went on to be in the medical field, how she, you know, never fully healed from that, but then she realized like it wasn't her fault as she started, you know, studying medicine and realizing like there was absolutely nothing that she could do about it. And so I got to the point where I had to realize, Deanna, there is absolutely nothing you can do about it. Nothing you can do about it. God has put you in this position for a reason, and either you're going to stand up in the storm or you're going to crumble down. And I decided I'm going to stand up in the storm until I make it through. And so once I accepted the fact that there was nothing that I could do, I was able to basically, I wouldn't say enjoy my stay at the hospital, but I wasn't as stressed because for the most part, you know, my stats were always good. Blood pressure was never high, you know, I was always breathing well, using the bathroom properly, so I didn't have any issues in that way, and all I could do was wait. And once I realized that, it made things so much easier on me. Some different things that I've realized, that going back to the topic of people not talking about miscarriages as often, please be mindful of the women that you talk to that have gone through a miscarriage, because I hear women say all the time, oh, you'll get pregnant again, or, you know, maybe it wasn't your time, or those things aren't encouraging, because at the moment that I found out that I was pregnant, something rose up in me to say it is your responsibility to protect your children, you know? And when you find out that you're pregnant, you start thinking of all of these wonderful things that you're going to do and how they're going to grow up to be, you know, this or that, or you're going to take them here or there, and then it's all wiped away from you in an instant. You need to grieve that, and you need to be, you know, okay with grieving it. Allow yourself to grieve, because at the end of the day, that was your child. No matter if you never physically got to hold them, they were growing in your body for a period of time. That was your child. So you need to take the time to go ahead and grieve the idea of having them in your life for an extended amount of time. Grieve the idea of the things that you had planned to do with them, or grieve the idea of what you thought they would have become as they got older. Take the time to do that, because it is necessary, and you deserve to give that to yourself for closure. During the time of my stay in the hospital, because my body physically was doing well and the kids were doing well, I hadn't dilated any further since the original 20 weeks that I was accepting visitors and just, you know, trying to stay happy throughout this time of my pregnancy, because I was just so grateful that each day God was giving me another opportunity to get closer to that 24 weeks. One thing that I did meanwhile I was in the hospital is that I would go to their weekly group chats with other women on the maternal floor, who had some similar situations and some not so similar, but they were all high risk. You know, we all had our different complications that we were going through, and they just could never understand how come I was always so optimistic, how come I had so much faith and so much hope, so much joy. But it was just simply because God had given me another day. That's all that I was asking for. Another day, Lord, another day. Like, that's it. And because I had accepted the fact that whatever the outcome is, I know that it's from Him. And I know that He has the future of my life in His hands. And He knows the plans that He has for me. And if He says that He has plans for a good future for me, I have to trust in Him that if these kids come and they are healthy, that is what He's planned. If they come and they pass away, that is what He has planned, and I have to accept it. During this time in the hospital, I received a overwhelming amount of support. I mean, from my physical family, from my spiritual family, from my friends, just from everyone. I mean, the people in my life, they just showed up and showed out. And I touched on this a little bit in a previous video, but this is the reason why you want to surround yourself around positive people that genuinely care about you. And I touched a little bit about you know, if you don't have that family support that you need, maybe try to go to church and get that support that you need there. Because for me, my church family, like, they were amazing. My husband, for the entirety of my stay at the hospital, which was about a month, my husband was there, and he was not getting paid. And my church, they did a special fundraiser for me and my family. And it was just so amazing and overwhelming. Not even the money. It wasn't even the money. It was just to know that these people cared about me so much, to the point where even the teenagers and the older people and disabled on set incomes, y'all, gave. Like, my sister, she is on the finance committee, and so she told me about one of the teenagers that came up to her and was like, listen, I get $20 a week for lunch money, but I know that, you know, Deanna and Mundo probably need it more than I do right now, since they're in the hospital and they're going to be having the baby soon. So I want to go ahead and give my $20 of lunch money. And that was just so beautiful to me, because I think back at that age, was I so giving? Like, you know, and it just speaks to the level of, you know, teaching of love and kindness and sharing and caring that goes on, you know, at my home church, in my home church community. On top of that special offering, my minister himself, him and his family came to visit me, and they gave us a generous donation on top of that. Some of the deacons came and gave us generous donations. Other people who had already given came and gave us generous donations. But the thing is, like, it's because we look at each other like family. Some of these people, I've known them all my life. One of the oldest ladies in the church, she calls me and my sisters her spiritual granddaughters. So that just goes to show you how much love and affection I receive from the community around me at church. And so that is the reason why I suggested that if you do not have a church family and you are going through a very difficult time, church is a good place to be with the Lord and the people around you who can love and support you despite of your flaws, despite of the things that are going on in your life. That's what they're there for, to support and encourage you. So then the ladies came from church and they had a song and prayer group with me. And this spoke magnitudes to not only me, but it was a source of encouragement to the other women in the facility, because after we did our song and prayer service, you know, that too was a very emotional time for me, because there was not one dry eye in there after we were finished singing and praying. And even my brother-in-law broke down, which to me was like insane, because, you know, men don't cry. So I really realized how much of an impact what we were going through was having in other people, and how much people were rooting for us to make it through the situation on top. Y'all, where's my tissue? I have my tissue here. We saw how much people loved and cared for us and just wanted us to be okay, and wanted the twins to be okay, and how much prayer was going up. And after that whole experience, the nurse came in and she was like, "Wow, Deanna, I have never seen a patient with as much support and positivity as you have here. You have definitely encouraged the rest of us here to be positive and to have a positive outlook on situations that may be going rough for our patients." And she said, "You know, you don't realize the effect that you're having on the other women here, but keep doing what you're doing because it's working." And to me, that meant a lot to me, because I knew that, you know, the Lord had put me in this place to be a ray of positivity to the other women and the other people around me going through difficult situations like I was. But despite the fact that I was positive, I definitely had my moments. I remember two of my friends, they came to visit me. One has a son, one has a daughter. And I remember just looking at Tristan. The little boy's name is Tristan. I just remember looking at Tristan and saying, "God, if not for me, for my husband," because I could not swallow the fact that as his wife, I would not be able to give him children. That was just something that was ripping me apart. And I just remember thinking, like, if not for me, at least, Lord, for him. And they don't know that. And, you know, I still appreciated their visit, and it was still a source of an encouragement. But sometimes seeing other people with their kids, sometimes it was difficult for me to see other people with their children. Not that I was unhappy for them. I was very happy that, you know, other women were having kids and, you know, their kids were healthy and that they were strong. But it would just put me back into the position that I am in now. So even though you're on your faith walk, and even though I was reading my scriptures daily, and even though I believed that God had a plan for me, sometimes this flesh got weak. And sometimes I got really sad about, you know, what was going on. The sadness wouldn't last for a long time, because I would always try to pick myself back up, but I would have those moments. So the days started to go on and on and on, and before you knew it, I was there 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And you know, after you're someplace for a while and you're getting so close to your goal, the devil starts to creep into your head. And he starts to place doubt there where it doesn't belong, because God has carried you this far not to disappoint you. And I remember having a conversation with my grandma and saying to her, like, Grandma, I wish there was a calendar right in front of my bed and there was a chair beneath it. And I'll say, Grandma, I just wish I could see him. I wish God could be sitting in the chair right in front of me so that I knew he was there. I wish I could touch him. I wish I could feel him. I wish I knew that he was with me. I wish I knew that he was protecting me at this time, God. This time, Grandma. I wish, because, you know, that physical part of you always wants to see something. Because if you don't see it, it's not real. You know? And that's the worldly mentality, the worldly feelings. But my grandma said to me, baby, he's right there. He's sitting right there in that chair. And he's watching you, and he's making sure that everything is going well. He's never left your side. Your story thus far is a miracle, and we know that is from God. And that bit of encouragement really consoled me for that time, because it was just good to hear someone else. I almost felt like I was going crazy. Like, you know, like, I can't see you, but you're here. I know you're here. Like, and right above that chair, like I said, there was a calendar. And I remember when I started getting closer to the date, I would spend hours staring at the calendar at August 21st, and I kept saying, Lord, just take me here. Just take me here. Just give me a chance and take me here. At that point, that's the date that I needed to get to. August 21st was the date that I had to get to, because they had already explained to me the likeliness of a child making it before 24 weeks. If they didn't come out alive, they wouldn't try to resuscitate or anything. So I just stared at the calendar saying, Lord, take me there. During the time that I was at the hospital, my main doctor from the previous facility that had transferred me there, he would come and see me periodically. And he was like a breath of fresh air, because many of the other people, they wouldn't reference God. And if you said anything to them about God, it was almost like, you know, it was almost like God was Santa Claus to them or something. A made up fiction story or something. Not all of them, but the majority of them. And he was the only one that came, and he sat down to me and he said, Deanna, you're doing good. He said, whoever you pray to, whoever you're holding on to, whoever is sustaining you at this time, continue to look in that direction. Dig deep down into your faith and push forward. And to me, that was amazing, because I had never heard anyone in the medical field talk that way before. And it was evident that my faith was starting to shine. It was starting to shine throughout the hospital, and I hadn't even realized that until he said that to me. From there on, I was 22 weeks and 6 days. A woman like an angel came into my room. I had never heard of her before, but she was a practicing doctor. And she came in and she said to me, I've been following your charts, and I think that there's a medicine that I can give you. Now at this point, I was taking progesterone shots in my bum once a week. And basically that medicine was given to me to kind of try to hold my cervix together. So I guess it's kind of like a tightening medication. There hasn't been a whole bunch of research on it, but it was something that they were giving, and so it was something that I was taking because I was willing to try anything to hold on to my pregnancy. So at this point, I was 22 weeks and 6 days when she came into my room, and she said, there's a medication that we give, which is a steroid. We typically don't give it this early. Considering the fact that you're only at 23 weeks, it's kind of unheard of that we do this. But based on your charts, I'm willing to give it a try if you are. So she explained to us what the medication was for. It was basically to strengthen the children's lungs. But the only drawback is that the medication is only good in your system for a certain amount of time. Now, this to me was also showing me God's work, okay? Because we prayed about it and we felt that we should go forward with it. So we went forward with it, and the medicine, I'm going to put it on the screen as well. The medicine is called betamethasone, and I'm going to put it on the screen just in case you guys want to look it up and see if it is something, if you're in a similar situation, if it's something that you want to take. And basically it only lasts, it's 2 shots, about 12 to 24 hours separated, and it only lasts in your system for a while. So we took the shot, and now it was just a waiting game, hoping that the babies didn't come, and if they did come, that they would be affected by it, because it was wearing out, and then I couldn't take it again for like another 2 weeks in between that, and so it would have weared off, right? Because at that point, I think at 23 weeks when they gave it to me, say it lasted about 2 weeks, it would have taken me another 2 weeks to get it again. And so by that point, I would have been at 28 weeks, which you have a higher percentage of living, which is like 80%. But then without that medication, it would have lowered their chances at that point. I hope that makes sense. I hope I'm explaining it properly. So we took the shot. I took it, and I said, you know, hopefully God is overseeing this and everything is gonna go in his way. After they gave me the betamethasone shot, a team of doctors from the NICU as well as the maternal unit came to pay me a visit, and they started to explain to me the chances of life for a 24-week child, that it would be probably not a good quality of life, that they may be in a vegetative state, you know, that a lot of things could possibly go wrong. But if I was willing to take the risk, they were too. But the only thing is that if I went to labor before 24 weeks and my kids came out unresponsive, they could not try to resuscitate them, because the guidelines state that they can only resuscitate at 24 weeks. And thank God I took the shot, because a week later, exactly on August 21st, the day that I looked at the calendar, the day that I prayed to God and I told him, I just need you to take me here. Take me here, Lord. And that is the reason why I said, be mindful of what you're praying for. Some people may say it's a coincidence, but not for me. Right? So on August 20th, I started feeling a lot of discomfort, and I'm like, something is going on here. My nurse that night, she had had twins and she was pregnant again, and she was like, you know, when you hit around this time with twins, you start to feel a bit of discomfort. It's normal, yada, yada, yada. I kept tossing and turning the entire night till they finally decided to hook me up on the monitor. They weren't seeing any contractions, so they were like, oh no, you're fine. And I'm telling my husband, like, Mundo, I'm going into labor. Like, I've never been through it before, but this is it. This is it. And he's like, babe, you're crazy. Stop. We still have 16 more weeks to go. We're going to be here 16 more weeks, so just buckle down, because this is how long it's going to take for us to be in here. So just relax. You're not going to, we do not want you to go in labor right now. So stop. Calm down. Calm down. So I'm like, all right, fine, whatever. I'm not going into labor. But surely enough, the morning of August 21st, 2013, the day that I had prayed to God, just take me here, I was in labor. The doctor came in, and this was around 9:30, 10 o'clock, and she felt she put her hands in and she said, whoa. the baby's right there. I could feel the baby's head. She said, it's time to go, Deanna. It's time to get you ready. Now, the crazy thing is, at 23 weeks and 6 days, the doctors came in and said, you know, Deanna, just to make sure that everything is smoothly, you know, you're lining up well. It looks like you're going to be here a while. Let's just go ahead and get the paper signed for the epidural so you don't have to worry about that. That's not something that'll have to concern you during that time, right? That was the Tuesday that I signed the work saying that it was okay to get an epidural. The Wednesday I was in labor, okay? So the doctor comes in, she says, no, it's time to go. I feel a tear rolling down my face. Literally a tear. One tear. And I thought to myself, why are you going to cry, Deanna? Because God has this. He's brought you this far. This is what the devil wants you to do. He wants you to freak out. You cannot freak out. You have to remain calm. You have to push forward, Deanna. So that's exactly what I did. That one tear, and that was it. I was done. There was no tears coming out of me at that point because I had a mission. And that mission was to get my children out healthy. Initially, I had a doctor, and I don't think he meant any harm by this, but once I started getting the progesterone shots and, you know, I was there, like, you know, for a while and everything was going smooth, they hadn't seen any changes or anything, he was like, okay, Deanna, are you ready to go? And he hadn't been the first one to say it to me, so I, like, broke down. And I was like, listen, I don't care if I'm here for another 18 weeks. I'm not leaving until my kids are out and safe or otherwise. I'm not leaving this hospital. So then he said, oh, I'm so sorry. He didn't realize, you know, other people had been saying it to me, and he didn't realize that it was affecting me so deeply, and he would never say it again. Guess who I saw in the delivery room that day? Because my high-risk doctor, he was from a different country, and he went home to go visit his family. The day before he left, he came to visit me, and he said, I'll be back in 10 days. Will you still be here? And I said, I'll be here. Trust me, I'll be here. I didn't. I was saying that, but I wasn't going to be there. That wasn't the Lord's plan. So as I got wheeled into the delivery room, there was a doctor who asked me if I was ready to leave, as well as a doctor who told me initially that I only had 30 minutes to decide. The doctor who also kind of made a weird face when I said, only God has the opportunity to take a life, to give and take lives. That is not in my hand. Those two doctors stood in my way to deliver my two children. So, you know, in my head at this time, I'm not thinking, you know, God put them here so that they could see my light. I'm just thinking like, them? Really? You know? But I said, Lord, your will may be done. Like, this is what it is, and they have more experience than I do in this situation, and they are gonna do the best that they can because they're under oath to get my kids out healthy. Now, at this point, I made it upstairs around 10 o'clock. Around 10 o'clock, they were giving me the epidural and everything. My mom was on her way. They got me set up. I got into the room. Everything went so quickly. Everything went so quickly. When I was in the room, there was about 20 different physicians there. Like, and I was on a small, like, operating table, and there were just piles of people. And in my head, I'm kind of like, what are all y'all gonna do? like I only have one way for these kids to get out, so like, what are all these different people gonna do? But thank God for all of them, because they all played a part. They told me, Deanna, here comes a contraction, it's time to push. I had a contraction and started pushing. After like 2 or 3 pushes, plop, they said, he's out. That's all I could hear is, he's out. And all I'm saying is he alive? Is he alive? And they're like, yes, he's alive. So like, I'm like, okay. So then they're like, okay, so half of those people left to attend to Clayton, all right? So then they're over there, they're wrapping him up, doing the things that he had to do. But now it's time for me to focus because I have another child in me that needs to come out. And the doctors, at this point, Savannah's like, nah, y'all, like, I'm not ready to come. Like, I'm chilling. Like, Clayton wanted to leave. It wasn't time for me to get evicted yet. Like, I'm not trying to go nowhere. Can y'all please just leave me alone? So they had to go in and pull her down and break my water. I remember feeling a bit of pressure and break my water. And then they were like, okay, Deanna, we're gonna pull and you're gonna push. So the doctor had like her hand, like, the human body is so amazing because the doctor like literally had her whole hand in there. And she was like, okay. And then the doctor that asked me if I wanted to leave was the one kind of telling her what to do. And the one who told me that I had 30 minutes to decide, she was the one delivering my kids. So she had her hand in there and she was like pulling and kind of like trying to pull Savannah down a little bit. And I'm pushing, and then it's just like, and then they're like, she's out, she's out, she's out. And then I'm like, same thing again. Is she alive? She's alive, she's alive. And they're like, yeah, she's alive, she's alive, she's alive. And I was just like, oh, you know, they're alive. They're alive. Like, they're alive. Like, that's all that I could think is, they're alive. Thank you, God. August 21st, and they're alive. No need to resuscitate them because they're alive. And so then once they wrapped the twins up and got, you know, the breathing tubes down, like, obviously they needed assistance. So basically my husband, he got to cut the umbilical cord for both of them, and he got to see them better than I did, obviously, because I was still like on the delivery table. And he came and he comforted me, and he's like, no, they're okay, they're breathing, they're okay, you know, they're getting them situated, everything is gonna be all right. My husband's faith is like unwavering, y'all. Like, when doubt started to creep inside of me, he's like, no, God got this, like, we're good, Deanna, stop worrying, God has this. So they wrapped them up quickly, and first I got to see Clayton for like 10 seconds, like maybe, I don't even know if it was like that long, but it's just like, here's your baby boy, all right, we gotta go now. And then they took him, and then they came, and Savannah came over, her little eyes were open. Clayton's eyes were still sealed, they were still fused because they were so early. But Savannah's eyes were open, and they were like these little black dots. They look like little rice, like little peas looking at me. And I remember her like blinking, and I'm like, oh, thank you, God, they are alive. Like, that's all that I could think. And at that time, I felt so much joy, but so much fear took my body by storm. And it's almost as though I forgot what God had taken me through thus far, and the fact that everything I had prayed for, everything that I had asked for to this point had been taken care of. My insurance came through. I was able to stay at the hospital. He took me to August 21st, exactly 24 weeks. He delivered me in the day. And then on top of that, he used the people that I felt as though was somewhat of my enemy to show them the light and the power of his way. And so even though fear was setting into me, it was just like uncontrollable. Like, it was just all of the what ifs were rolling in, and it was hard for me to remember that God had taken care of me thus far. And like I said before, we're all human. We have human ways. And so it's that we should not dwell in that space for a long time. When that happens, realize that God is not the God of confusion and the God of fear, you know? And when those things creep into your heart during difficult times and difficult situations, know that that is not at all from him. So that day we went back to our room. I didn't get to hold them. I didn't really get to look at them. It was about 6 hours before I saw them again. And the I remember I was so tired. My aunt came to visit me, you know, because she loves babies. So I don't think in her head it registered that they were like only 1.5 pounds and like almost 12 inches. But she's like, where are they? Can I see them? Can I see them? Can I see them? And I'm like, I haven't even seen them yet. Like, I haven't even been up there to see them yet. And because they weren't allowing me to see them yet, because they had to like get them situated and make sure that they were like settled and everything. So that took a while. When we were in our room, after my aunt left, they sent in a lactation specialist. And to me, it's so crazy how women go through so many similar feelings, but because we don't talk about them, they're left unheard. I remember just looking at the yellow Medela pump and thinking, okay, where are my babies? This is not how this goes. This is not how this is supposed to go. I'm supposed to have a 9-pound baby in my hand too. Right now, you're supposed to be teaching them how to latch to my breast. I'm supposed to be breastfeeding right now. I'm supposed to be putting on their outfits to go home right now. I'm not supposed to be here in a room by myself with them upstairs and I can't see them. I haven't held them. I haven't touched them. I saw them for 10 seconds. This is not the way that this is supposed to go. But and in my heart, it's like, I'm grateful, but I was so saddened at the same time that all of those experiences that I was expecting were kind of like just ripped away from me, you know? But anyways, I did what they told me to do. I started to pump to get milk so that I could feed Savannah and Clayton. So we ended up going upstairs and, you know, I remember seeing them and all I could do was cry. And I had this big moo on and I had my hair up in a bonnet and I looked like African people say auntie. Jamaican people say granny. Like, I looked like a granny. And all I could do was sway side to side. And tears were just rolling down my face. Side to side, tears rolling down. I couldn't stop swaying. I couldn't stop, and I'm just looking at them like, oh my gosh, I can't hold my kids, I can't do anything, I can't help them, I'm helpless. There's nothing that I can do. So after we were able to see the kids' godmother, she came back to the hospital and she checked on us. So we get upstairs and Savannah is, she was desatting and stuff, and desatting basically means when your heart, I think it's like your heart, or you stop breathing for a while. And so then her godmother was saying, because when I went around her and I started talking and everything, her rates were getting better and better. And she's like, you know, she knows you're here. You keep talking to her, keep talking to her, keep talking to her. And so that was like really comforting to me to know that, you know, they knew that mama was around then, and you know, it made them feel better, and being around them also made me feel better as well. But the first day is what the doctors call the honeymoon stage. But that's really the honeymoon stage because none of the tests that they've performed have come back yet. So as long as the babies are breathing with the oxygen and everything, they're doing pretty okay, right? So the next day came, so this was the second day of life that came, and all the tests started to flow in. So the big things that stood out to me the second day when all the results came back is that both of the kids were bleeding in their ventricles, which is in your brain. And basically that was something that was common with kids that were premature, but it could get a lot worse, better. Like the body could self-absorb the blood that was there that wasn't supposed to be there, but it would take a little bit of time for it to do so, and within that time we would just have to pray that it did not get worse. The second thing was both of their hearts had, the PDA was still open, which is basically a vessel that closes over time if your pregnancy goes all the way till the end. So that was another concerning thing. Then the third thing was their lungs. Obviously, thank God we were able to take the steroid. That definitely helped them out. But their lungs were still not in a position where they needed to be. And they collapsed quite a bit during our stay in the NICU. So those were the three things that really stood out for both of them. So those were the negative things that were going on in their body at that time, and it was just so overwhelming to me, and I couldn't handle it. Like, it was too much. It was too much going on. Like, half of these terms I had never heard in my life. I didn't know what was going on. Everything just sounded really bad, because if I hear blood in your brain where it's not supposed to be, your lungs are failing, you know, there's vessels that are still open that's not supposed to be. Like, all these things are really scary. So the night that they were born, when I came back from seeing them and really being able to look on them and see, you know, the size that they were and how everything was going, I barely slept that night. All I said for hours and hours is, please God, thank you God. Please God, thank you God. Please God, thank you God. That's all that I could say. And even though those were the words coming out of my mouth, I knew that God understood what I was saying, meaning that I was saying, thank you for taking me this far. I appreciate everything that you've done for me. You've definitely shown yourself in my life, and I'm grateful for that. But at this time, I need you, Lord, to continue. I need you to bring me further. I know I said bring me to the 21st, but I need you to carry me all the way. And I know that God was able to hear those in my words, because obviously he knows what I'm thinking. And even though all I could get out was please God, thank you God, I know that he heard me. So now it comes to the day that I have to leave. And this was the hardest day of my life to date. Just waking up with the idea of leaving my kids 30 miles away from my home, with them being 1.5 pounds and unable to defend or protect themselves, really tore me down. So what I did is I got up and I got in the shower. That was my way of thinking that I was hiding. And I basically sat in the shower stool, and all I could do was cry. Because I couldn't get myself to think that I had to leave my kids here. I had to walk away from them and go home. Of course, I could visit them whenever I wanted to, but this is not what I envisioned. This is not what I see other people go through. I've never heard of anyone having to leave their kids at the hospital. And remember, I said I was only 24 years old when I had them, so I had never been pregnant before. No one in my family has ever experienced anything like this before. So I was just overwhelmed with these emotions. So I stayed in the shower for a while, and I was bawling my eyes out. And then my husband says, I just hear my husband, Deanna, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. So then he like runs into the shower. And this is why I love this man so much. He just like grabs me up and he's like, baby, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. They're gonna be okay. But I like couldn't get myself together. And he just sat there with me and held me. And that just meant the world to me, because guys, that's the reason why nothing that we go through now is too difficult for me to deal with my husband, because he's been my rock. That entire time he never left my side. Some guys would have said this is too much for me to handle, not him. His faith didn't waver. When I was fearful, he wasn't. Or even if he was, he didn't let me see it. And in that hospital shower, he just sat there with me and consoled me and made me feel that everything was going to be okay. And that he was there right along with me. And that is the reason why, baby, I love you so much. The reason why it was so hard for me is just because, you know, like, you think like when you're a little girl growing up and you think of having your own family, you think of having your own kids, you think of all of these wonderful, beautiful things, and how you're gonna take, you know, your maternity pictures, and how you're gonna have your nursery all set up, and what you're gonna bring them home in, and all of those different things. And for me, it was just like, okay, here's this yellow Medela pump, and 2 days from now I'm gonna send you home, and you can't go home with your kids. And that ripped me apart, okay? It ripped me apart. But I knew that God had taken me thus far, and He was going to take us even further. So I packed my things and I went home. And that was the beginning to a very long journey of 158 days in the hospital. So after this very long video of smiles, tears, and laughs, I hope that you were able to find something encouraging from my story. I hope that you are, if you are going through something similar, that you know that you are not alone, and that you should just continue to rely on the support that you have around you. Continue to trust God and understand that He has your future in His hands, and that whatever the outcome is, that was His decision, and it is something that we have to accept. It's something that's only going to make you stronger in Him. If you like my vibe, please go ahead and subscribe, hit that like button, and leave me a comment. I'm hoping to do more videos on this topic. It just depends on the response that I get from this topic. Even if it's one person asking me a question, I intend to do more as far as how I made it through 150 days in the hospital with my kids, the different things, how I kept my spirits high, as well as their feeding journey, because they did end up having to get a G-tube, as well as they were on supplemental oxygen for a very long time. You know, we had a lot of other complications, Savannah with her eyes, and, you know, almost being blind and having to get injections in her eyes, and just like a lot of other different things coming home, and that, you know, starting a whole new chapter in our life and a whole new way of living, having to go to countless appointments. And so if you are on that journey, or if you know someone who is on the journey of having premature children or ill children, or just children in general, please go ahead and share my video with them, and I hope that it can be a source of encouragement to you as well. Until next time, guys, stay blessed and have a wonderful day. Bye.